evening, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and welcome to Beer Blather 288, Recalcitrant Jackassery. Just when we thought we had reached big stupidity from the American leftards, out they come with the biggest displays of recalcitrant jackassery ever imagined. You know what we're talking about. A persistently stubborn, foolish, obnoxious, and idiotic behavior that resists correction, warnings, or entreaties. They will be stupid because, well, they're already committed, and no amount of reasoning will dissuade them. Jackasses will do, as jackasses will do. Take Tucker Carlson, for instance, and his real-time revisionism. Hamas, you know, is not a terrorist organization, the moron carps. It is a political organization. Right. A political organization that killed, raped, and mutilated 47 American citizens on October 7th, then took another 12 hostage and tortured and imprisoned them for 2 years. One is still unaccounted for. I suppose al-Qa'ida is a beneficent organization and the IRA was a church group. Recalcitrant jackass. Or take the lawyers of Kilmar Abrego Garcia, who seem to have the sole argument that their criminal gangster fears persecution in 20 countries on 3 continents. Look at that. He'll end up with his bones in Swaziland, or as they call it today, Eswatini, from whence he'll immediately fly to Costa Rica or some other place he now fears, and there be reunited with his battered wife and the millions Democrats are raising for him. I guess it pays to be a gangster after all. Or take the imbeciles protesting the federal occupation of Washington, D.C., apparently immune to the idea that Washington, D.C. is, and always has been, a freaking federal district, depending directly from the federal government. Article 1, Section 8, Clause 17 of the U.S. Constitution. You know, they should read it every now and then. The Congress shall have power, blah, 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 to exercise exclusive legislation in all cases whatsoever over such district, not exceeding 10 miles square, as may, by session of particular states and the acceptance of Congress, become the seat of government of the United States, and to exercise like authority over all places purchased by the consent of the legislature of the state in which the same shall be, for the erection of forts, magazines, arsenals, dockyards, and other needful buildings, and it goes on for a while. It wasn't until recalcitrant jackasses in 1973 raised their stupid head that the denizens of the District of Columbia had any say in the election of electors. But go ahead, recalcitrant jackasses, make fool of yourselves. Straddling these two latter issues is Chris Van Hollen, the great grand mystic master of Jackassery, campaigning for the soon-to-be deported MS-13 gangster and fighting against the federalization of a federal district. Oh God, recalcitrant jackass. And so we move through the waters of the Sea of Jackassery, surrounded by philo-terrorist journalists, crime-loving legislators, and America-hating politicians, among other nice characters. Senator Fetterman declared this week that he could not understand the deep-seated Jew hatred of his Democrat Party. If one were to assume he's honest about his complaint and express disgust, what is he still doing there? Well, like so many nowadays, being a recalcitrant jackass, of course. This is Solmontes Bradley, the largest human repository of useless information, whew, from my uh, now ephemeral golden cage in Florida. I'm going to be sailing the ocean blue tomorrow, babe. And actually, not there, not there. I always do the same thing with a bit of mirror even. I think that guy over there is Thomas Cucker, the largest, well, the only living expert in World War II wars and over the war cities, being educated state of the necessity to be patient when governed by recalcitrant jackasses, the biggest one of which lives in the governor's house in Sacramento. How are you doing, Thomas?
I'm good. I was watching TikTok videos today of leftists complaining about the ICE raid on the Korean battery factory in
Oh,
not battery
yeah,
factory.
the
Was it a
Hyundai
battery
battery
factory?
factory. It's the Hyundai
Yeah,
battery factory.
in
Yes,
Georgia.
yes.
They arrested about 475 illegal aliens,
Yep.
and okay, it was really funny because they were saying the Democrats are saying that nobody's going to invest in this country again, that they're going to shut down all their factories, and
Well,
it's
if
like,
they hire
okay,
illegals, what do I care?
well, this is the thing. If they're going to shut down all their factories because they can't hire illegals, then they may as well not be here. So I
Yeah.
don't care. But
No, no. Hyundai got a sweet deal to open a factory with a shit ton of tax advantages that your American mom and pop store doesn't get, on the condition that they would hire about 8,000 Americans. You turn
right.
around, they're hiring illegals. Fuck them.
Well, also, okay, hold on a second. I got to unplug something.
Yeah. In the meantime, I can say that, if
Go
they're going
ahead.
to hire illegals, why not pay for all the taxes they were forgiven up front?
Well, okay, I saw some people saying that the whistleblower, she's just lying. And again, this goes down to nobody knowing how anything works. The federal government did a months long investigation. It wasn't that the whistleblower called in and then the next day all these ICE goons came thundering in, arresting
Parachuted
everyone
in,
in
yeah.
sight. Yeah. The Koreans have a long history of abusing their workers. And in this case, these illegals were living in barracks. Some of them were not getting paid. They were being the ones that were getting paid were having a massive percentage of their money stolen by their overseers. So it was slavery. And
Yes.
now we have leftists arguing on behalf of slavery. And they're going to keep doing this. They're going to keep doing this all the way up to the midterms and then the 2028 election. They're going to be saying that we need crime, we need slavery, we need rape, we need mass shootings, we need all of this because something because Trump opposes them, and it's like, okay, but you don't understand that the overwhelming majority of Americans oppose all those things. So you're going to be running on things that most of the country, 80% of the country minimum, opposes. You're not going to find people, except in this 20% or less of the population. You're not going to find very many Americans who support slavery. It's only these far leftist weirdos who don't know how anything works. And you know, you can't have a discussion with them about what's actually going on, because they don't understand what's going on. They think that Trump is sitting in his office, picking up the phone and giving random orders to people, and the orders are carried out. And you can have a whistleblower who's lying about everything, and yet almost 500 illegal aliens are arrested, and they're going to be deported. And South Korea is saying that they're going to send possibly the foreign minister here to straighten things out, which means it's all true.
Tell the foreign minister to bring a coverall and get to work in the Korean factory.
Well, they're not denying any of this.
No,
and
of course not.
What people don't understand about South Korea, it was only recognized as an industrialized nation in like 1995, something like that.
We did that.
Yeah, and
starting in the 80s.
I saw a documentary last night, a Korean documentary about this 5-story luxury department store that collapsed in 1995. And the architect designed it. The structural engineers wrote down what it was going to take. And then the department store owner went to the city and passed them giant stacks of bills so that they would take out half of the structural, the load-bearing pillars, and then the remainder of the pillars were supposed to be 80 centimeters in diameter with 16 rebar in them, vertical rebar to support. And this was changed to from 80 centimeters in diameter to 60 with only 8 rebar in them. So all of this was built, and as soon as the thing was built, it started cracking.
Yeah, and vibrating and cracking for sure.
On the day before the collapse happened, the owner in the city had an emergency meeting on how to handle the impending collapse. And of course, the thing collapsed. 500 people were killed. 700 people were injured, and 31 people were never found because their bodies disappeared.
Pancake.
Exactly. And only 7 people went to prison, even though dozens and dozens were involved in this. That's South Korea.
Yep.
At the end of the documentary, they were showing similar disasters all the way up to 2025. Nothing is done about it. Nobody goes to jail. There was a ferry that turned turtle, and it was full of high schoolers, and they were all told to remain in place, and hundreds died. And the president, who was eventually removed from office for corruption, she wanted a photo op to show that she was very concerned. And what they did was they put fake pump hoses in the water to simulate for the photo op that they were pumping water, they were pumping air into the ferry to right it, but they weren't actually doing anything. The government rescue divers had no equipment and didn't know what to do. So the overwhelming majority of the rescue was done by volunteer civilians. And that's Korea. That's Korea. That's how they do things. Korea. And
they do worse than that. They now elected a bunch of assholes who want an approach with North Korea, who want essentially the Socialist Republic of South Korea.
Yeah, and
you have to wonder, are these people of the right mind?
Well, far leftists in this country have essentially admitted they don't care about human life. They want slavery. They want there's an all volunteer force working to locate the somewhere around 100,000 to 200,000 children who arrived in this country unaccompanied and were simply handed off to completely unvetted strangers.
To traffickers.
They've located about 20,000 of them.
Yes.
And by located, I mean they've discovered their fate. A lot of them are dead. A lot of them were murdered. A lot of them committed suicide. This is what leftists
that makes the Biden administration the largest child trafficking organization in the history of the world, because that's what they did. That's what they did. They delivered these minors to, sometimes, by the dozen, to people that didn't have to prove relationship, and they ended up being exploited in the labor force, in meat processing plants, in construction work, or in sexually exploited. And it was our government that did that. And they're upset now because the government is finding them.
The government's finding them. The government is taking slaves out of the Hyundai plant. The government is doing. I heard Mamdani say that he's going to do everything that Trump promised to do but isn't doing. And
yeah.
And it was such a limp-wristed,
not nationalizing,
cartoonish statement to me. What?
He's going to do all the things that Trump promised and didn't do, like nationalize banks, take over property, create a minimum universal salary, all of these Trotskyite things that Trump promised, right?
Well, he and Shapiro of Pennsylvania, were saying that Trump wants to destroy the middle class, and it's just like nobody's listening to you guys.
No,
I mean, they're going to elect Mamdani in New York.
Yeah, that's why union workers in Pennsylvania moved over to Trump en masse, because they know they want to be. Trump wants to destroy them.
New York will elect Mamdani, and Trump said he doesn't want to see that happen because he still has a soft spot for New York. I can understand it, but if I were him, I would sever all my ties with New York, because New York is gonna, they're gonna try and bring him down even after he's no longer president. New York deserves everything it's going to get, and it's going to get a lot more than it's getting now. And at some point you cut people loose. You just say, okay, this person is incapable of rationality. There was a famous legal case here, and they had to remove one of the jurors because, as the judge announced, the rest of the jury said this woman was incapable of rational thought. And I thought, what an amazing thing for the judge to announce on national television. Yeah, well, it was Los Angeles, so the odds of her being a Democrat, but she was incapable of rational thought, so they had to remove her and put in an alternate juror. And that's what California is full of. It's full of people who are incapable of rational thought. New York, these idiots complaining about the raid on the Hyundai plant, and saying that this is going to stop other countries from investing in our country. It's like, but again, like you pointed out, if they're only going to hire illegal aliens, who gives a shit? It's not going to make a difference to us.
Listen, if we're going to have, let's say, Mexican cartels investing in pot farms in Mendocino, is that a good thing? Is that the kind of foreign investment you want to attract? Of course not. Not all foreign investment is the same. When you have companies that come to this country to exploit workers and act in violation of our laws, we don't fucking want them here. Simple as that.
No, and the completely obstinate refusal to agree to reality from this increasingly dwindling percentage of Americans.
Yes.
It's really awful to see, because the more the truth hits them, the more they come up with complete
The more
insanity.
entrenched. Yes. Hence the recalcitrant.
Well, also it's the level of what's being said is getting crazier and crazier. And
Yeah.
you know, insanity doesn't belong in politics. We have plenty of our politicians are saying completely insane things. You know, back to the back to the Epstein stuff. It's like the demand of some of our own Congress members, you know, to release the Epstein files. Okay, what happens when they're released and there's nothing there?
Well,
what do you say? Do you say I was wrong? No, of course not.
What do you
never admit to being wrong.
You're talking about these outstanding imbeciles, Marjorie Taylor Greene or Thomas Massey, who are now, you know, make grandstanding in Congress demanding the release of the files that do not exist. Where were they in the past 6 years? Where the fuck were they? Were they on vacation in some beach in the Caribbean, or perchance did they go to Fiji? Where were they? Because I didn't see a single word from them regarding Epstein files in 2019, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, and now all of a sudden they see the light. They had an epiphany.
Also,
bullshit. What they had is a check hitting the bank.
Also, Epstein files. A file is a record compiled by somebody. So, what are they talking about? What files? Which files? The police files? They've already been released. Epstein had no files himself. He wasn't a file keeper. He was a party animal. What's her name? The one in prison.
Ghislaine Maxwell.
Maxwell had no files because otherwise.
That's why she's in jail, because of
Maxwell had no file. Maxwell had no files. Maxwell had no files because if she did, she wouldn't be in jail. So, what are we talking about? Who kept files on Epstein? But what law enforcement? No, there's nothing there. The CIA? No, because there was no reason for the CIA to keep an eye on Epstein. Mossad? If you asked Mossad for their records on Epstein, they would laugh in your face. I just saw
the Jews have the goods on everyone.
If they did, the world would be a much better place.
I believe so, but what kind of moron comes up with this shit?
Well, it's behind the times. I mean, when you have like Syria basically saying we don't have any quarrels with the Jews, and you know, we'd really like to be a first world country, and we'll do whatever it takes to become a first world country. That's Syria. So the people running Syria are more rational than our own far leftists. It's quite an amazing sort of thing to contemplate.
Yeah, I have to say. By the way, have you noticed how things quieted down on the Syrian front? Everybody was screaming hysterically 3 weeks ago. All of a sudden, everything is calm and
Yeah,
quiet.
right. Because everything's going to be okay. I mean, Trump didn't impulsively say, "Oh, I'm going to lift the sanctions." No, he had long briefings by his intelligence, by Saudi
Mhm.
intelligence. He had long briefings by Syrian intelligence. Just because
Israeli.
we don't know about it doesn't mean it didn't happen. Israeli, everybody. Um, in the former al Jilani, he's publicly saying, I don't want the Israelis to bomb our depots anymore. He wants the Israelis to bomb the depots. He doesn't want millions of weapons depots all around Syria where
That
any lunatic can get their hands on.
his opponents can get their hands on it. Screw that. Destroy
Exactly.
all of them.
Yeah.
And yeah,
No.
there is Israeli activity in southern Syria, in the Druze areas, and I don't see Al Shara protesting about that. Do you?
No, because the Israelis are going around to the Druze who are causing trouble and saying, "Knock this shit off. Knock this shit off." Or guess what? We're going to turn our backs on you. We don't need this right now. We don't want to start a war with Syria. Stop it. You know,
Yeah, that's it.
the
They,
Israelis are
they're,
doing the
they're
Israelis
finishing the
are
war in Hamas.
mhm. The Israelis are doing everything they need to do, and they're doing it for the last time. When Hamas is gone, that's it. When the Iranian mullahs are gone, that's it. When the Houthis are gone, that's it. The Lebanese are now in the process of disarming Hezbollah, and
Yep.
Hezbollah is protesting by riding little motor scooters through the streets. That's all they have left.
With no
They don't have
fingers.
any tanks. They don't have. Yeah. So
They have no tanks,
the
no
middle.
fingers, and no balls.
Yeah. So the Middle East has changed. It's the weirdest thing. It's like all these nuts that we were told could never be cracked have been cracked, and the professional complainers are just they're going from thing to thing to thing to thing, and they're finally down to the only thing they can complain about is they don't want crime stopped. They don't want illegal alien murderers arrested and then deported. Um, they've really got to the point where the only thing they can complain about is the reimposition of law and order. It's like, okay, so you guys want to be Somalia, you want to be
They,
Liberia.
they want the
Well,
federal
yes.
government out of the federal district. Eh,
No,
That,
and
they're
when
beyond
you when you have
stupid.
Muriel Browser making a 180-degree turn and saying, "I want them here as long as is necessary," then it's like, okay, that's it. You've won the battle, and leftists have lost the battle. Personally, I
Yeah,
think leftists have lost the war. Um,
I do too. I do too. There's still, that even after the war is over, you're still going to have pockets of resistance. Um, but yeah, I think
yeah,
that the culture of war is lost to them, and the more some of these things happen, the more that people who are coming in late to the party are going to figure it out. Um, I told you 3 weeks ago when the people of Washington D.C. and I don't mean people in Northwest D.C. I mean people in the Southeast, in the Southwest. Uh, generally black people, generally minimum salary workers, barely making by in violent neighborhoods that are as violent as Chicago. Uh, 360 deaths per year, per freaking year. Every 5 years, you have an Afghanistan in there. And when those people realize they can walk down their neighborhood. They can go to the store without fear. More stores will remain open because they won't have to close because everybody's robbing them every day. As their quality of life improves, do you think they're going to want to go back? Of
No,
course not.
and that's what's going to be offered. We're. I mean, the Democrats have a really hard sell in front of them. They don't understand it yet, but they think that they can win by simply opposing everything Trump does. And when Trump is cleaning up, criminal-ridden streets, crime-ridden streets, and okay, I was thinking about this. What's his name? Is his name Stephen Miller, who works in the Trump administration?
Oh yeah, he's one of my favorite characters in the West Wing. Steve,
Stephen Miller. When
he's an
Stephen
attorney.
Miller,
He's one of the clearest. Yeah,
go ahead. He's one of the clearest.
he's able to articulate Trump's policy better than anybody I know, and he's able
When
to
Stephen
describe
Miller,
the situation better. Yeah,
when Stephen Miller was 15 years old, he used to call into the Larry Elder show, and Larry really liked him. Stephen Miller was exactly the same way at 15 as he is now, and he would talk about his how much he it was always he against the entire classroom. And Stephen Miller made it from some Los Angeles school all the way up to the White House, and it's really fascinating. James Carville said that the Democratic talent pool is bottomless. I think he's insane. I can't think of anybody.
the talent pool is below the bottom. That's why it's bottomless.
Yeah, it could be. When it comes to conservatives, we've got people who could be young people today who could be president in 15, 20 years easily. And the Democrats have nobody. They have nobody. All their young people are like, okay, Ilhan Omar, she went from having a net worth of 150,000 to 30 million in 1 year. And oh, it's my husband's money. No, it isn't.
No,
So if all of that is exposed, then the Democrats are sunk.
it should be exposed, and I hope they do. There's so much to do, and it's only been 7 months, really 8 months.
Mm,
That I don't want to jinx it, but yeah, somebody has to look into the finances. I understand that Act Blue is going uh, it's under investigation, and it's going to be hit with 100 tons of bricks because of the money laundering they've been doing for for the Democratic Party and candidates. Um, Thousands upon thousands of donations of for the same people who never donated a dime, donations from outside of the country, which are forbidden by law in many ways, including the campaign finance laws. Um, and all of a sudden, all of the instruments that these people like Ilan Omar, Rashida Tlaib, um, Alexandria Ocasio Cortez, and some on the Republican side as well, have been using to line their pockets. It's about to be cut off. Certainly, USAID was part of that network, and that one is cut off. So I expect they're going to have a little bit of a problem and a lot of exposure in in the next 2 years, and we need that, and we
Well,
need.
people talk a lot about George Soros. George Soros rarely used his own money. He basically used money stolen from the taxpayers. And Soros's son, apparently, from what I've read, is an idiot. He's 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 completely incapable of getting people to do what he wants them to do, and he doesn't even know what he wants them to do. He married Huma Abedin, and Huma Abedin was supposedly some genius.
Yeah, that's why
Can
she
you think of
married
anything?
Wiener. That's why she married
Yeah,
Anthony
exactly.
Weiner, because she's such a
Yeah,
fucking genius.
yeah.
She was like the water girl for Hillary Clinton, married to Anthony Weiner, with mommy dearest editing a magazine for al-Qa'ida, but she's a fucking genius.
Yeah. So the only people left who are going to be able to tell the Democrats what to do are a handful of Silicon Valley billionaires who are all insane. Like they don't know how anything works. Someone like Mark Zuckerberg. Mark Zuckerberg knows how his company works, but in a very real sense, he doesn't know that either because he's made so many terrible decisions. I saw a video of the first when Meta first started, when it first became available, and a couple of guys were using it and they were recording it using the screen record function. They were laughing hysterically and just like horrified at how awful it was. They were like everything was good and nothing worked the way they said it was going to work. Also, Zuckerberg tried to compete with Twitter. Well, I can't remember what that was called, that social media platform.
Oh, it tagged before anybody found out the name.
Exactly. And so if the Democrats are going to be reliant on the Silicon Valley billionaires, these guys are gonna order them to do things that are going to cause the Democratic Party to go the way of the Whigs. I mean, it's going to be gone. Either that or it'll be here, but it won't win anything for decades. I don't know. It's an amazing period, and Trump is showing how easy it is to get things done as long as you just stick to your as long as you just do it without worrying what anybody else says. I think the problem with our previous presidents is that they were weak. They were given horrible advice. Maybe there's corruption involved for some of the older ones. But okay, Trump blowing up the Tren de Aragua drug boat. I can't think of a previous president who would have done that.
No, and you can see again what we were discussing last week, and in a way going deeper today, the Democrats taking the side of the drug traffickers.
Yeah,
Because you see, Trump, that fiend, he killed 11 civilians. It's a war crime.
I've heard that. I've heard that there was
And
no evidence that it was a drug boat.
oh, we know exactly how much money and how much weight and how much market value.
Well,
Six
we
hundred and
know who
sixty
was on
million
the boat.
dollars. We know
We
the
know the
names of all
identity of
11.
the people. Yeah,
Yes, and if you ask me, about fucking time we started blowing them out of the water. We shouldn't have to spend millions of dollars chasing these fuckers around so that they can go through the revolving doors of our judicial system. Uh, Bullshit. They're in international waters. They're committing a crime. We deal with them as we deal with Somali pirates. Remember
Yeah,
those?
and of course,
What's the difference?
there's no difference. And again, nobody knows how anything works. A boat full of refugees coming to the U.S. doesn't have 4 outboard engines and a pile of bales in the rear. It just doesn't happen. It was a drug
No.
boat. It
And we
from
know it.
from
Like, you just said it. We know the names of the people aboard. We know where they came from. We know how much drugs they were carrying.
Yep.
Screw that.
And
One warning: stop or we'll shoot. 1, 2, 3, boom. That's it.
well, okay. Remember the video of the Navy SEAL jumping off the Coast Guard boat onto the drug semi-submersible and banging on the hatch and saying,
Yes.
open your hatch. Why should our SEALs have to risk their lives like that? The U.S. Coast Guards,
Not at all.
they have the U.S. Coast Guard has the best snipers in the world. They win the sniper competitions, and I've seen how they work. First, they take a general purpose machine gun, and they have a cable in the middle of the doorway of the helicopter, and they fire in front of the boat. So it goes da 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 da. The boat doesn't stop. Then they take a 50 caliber rifle and they shoot the engine, so the boat stops. Then the helicopter circles and they guard the boarding party with another automatic rifle. Why should we have to do all that? A Hellfire missile took care of these Tren de Aragua guys, and it was cheaper. No American lives were risked, and those particular Tren.
Wait till the voice gets around in Venezuela. That you have a 9 in 10 chances of being blown out of the water if you're engaged in this activity. They're not going to have too many recruits. It's not going to be economically viable anymore to transport drugs. They were going, by the way, to Trinidad, where they have a relay. It's not going to pay.
When George W. Bush was president, the Mexican army was escorting drug carriers into the country. They were crossing the border in their army vehicles. And when we complained to Mexico, they said, "Oh, those are fake. They were stolen by the cartels along with the uniforms." And my answer to that would be, blow them up. And if the Mexicans complain, you say, "But you said they weren't yours. You said they belonged to the cartels." But of course, George W. Bush didn't have the guts to do that. Trump would have done it.
Yeah. And
Trump actually did do it. Well, he did do it in his first term when the Russians said that the Wagner group had nothing to do with them in Syria. And so we demolished them. We inflicted 100% casualties on them.
Yeah. No, that's the way it's done. Which leads me to another end of a 1984 chapter. Apparently, we're going to have the Department of War again.
I see no problem with that.
Of course not.
I see no problem.
I see it as a positive. Stop with the doublespeak.
Well,
if it's not the Department of War, it should be the Ministry of Peace.
Tom Hanks was going to be presented with some award by West Point. Tom Hanks has never served. I don't know what the award was. But they canceled the ceremony, and the reason given was that it didn't fit in with the job of West Point, which is to train its students how to fight wars. And, That's what it is. West Point is there to train people how to fight wars. And
how to kill.
what does Tom Hanks? Yeah. What does Tom Hanks
How to
know
kill
about war?
most
Nothing.
effectively. The only
Yeah.
reason West Point should exist is to train our officers how to kill the enemy more efficiently and no more.
Well, the word West Point used was that the goal of the institution is to create the most lethal war fighting force in the world. And
Yes.
that word lethal is used a lot now. And lethal means to kill. So,
I kill you.
yep. And that's what the world understands. I know that most of the world's countries, the developed countries, refer to their armed forces as the self-defense forces. But at some point, you do have to take offense. The best self-defense is a good offense. So call it the Department of War again.
You know, defensive war is war nonetheless.
Mm-hmm.
What they're engaged in is the business of war, regardless of
Yeah.
how they want to decorate the signs. If somebody says in the chat they hate the term Pentagon, I don't. The building is shaped as a pentagon, so why the hell not? But the thing is, it is war, defensive or offensive, forced upon us or out of our own volition because we woke up one morning and we said we don't like these little brown people. Let's go and blow them up. Whatever the reason, it's war. Let's stop pretending it's something else. The Democrats are very big in talking a shitstorm about this. Uh, last I read, Obama, Clinton, and Biden were the three presidents that bombed the most countries of any other president in the history of this nation. Thousands upon
Well,
thousands of missiles on dozens of countries. And these people are giving us lessons.
also Obama and whoever was running Biden, they were micromanagers. So Obama would
Yes.
personally have to approve of everything. And Trump isn't a micromanager. So that was the reason Trump fired James Mattis as Secretary of Defense, because Mattis kept going to Trump saying, "Can we do this? Can we do this? Can we do this?" And Trump wanted the now Department of War to know what the mission is and carry it out without Trump having to, tell them.
As it should be.
Yep.
As it should be. Presidents should set the policy. Unless you bring me a president who went to the war college and actually has some experience handling troops in the field, they should refrain from sticking their nose into that particular area. This is what we want to achieve. Now, you, who were prepared for that purpose, go and fucking do it. And stay the crap out of the way. They're protesting because we sunk a drug smuggling boat with a hellfire. Okay. Oh, we're killing civilians without due process, mind you, because apparently these people are like chicken thieves in Arkansas, and we need to
Well, actually,
read them their rights and put them through a court.
they're not civilians. They're irregular combatants.
Of course, and you can argue that because they are Cartel de los Soles, they are definitely part of the Venezuelan army that is conducting an irregular war against the U.S. But that's a different point.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't Obama order the killing of al-Awlaki? Adam
and Adam
Gadang
Gadon.
and
Yeah.
Osama bin Laden. But by the way, I'm not complaining about that. Even a broken clock is right twice a day, and he was right killing these bastards. But did anybody talk about, oh my God, we deprived them of the rights to a trial by their peers in New York? Of course not.
Well, not anybody arguing in good faith. I mean, Cindy Sheehan argued that Cindy Sheehan never came across a terrorist she didn't fall in love with. So,
Ugh.
no, this is the thing that terrorists know the rules of the game, and one of the rules of the game today is that you just might eat a Hellfire missile. So, don't worry about the Tren de Aragua fuckers on the boat. They know full well what can happen to them, and you know, they played the game, and they won the particular prize that was always there for them to win, and that's the end of that. Remember, Tren de Aragua, you saw the videos of them in Colorado taking over apartment buildings,
Taking over buildings.
going
Yep.
to houses. Yeah, they set up factories in the basements where they had key masters who made master keys for all the apartment doors, and they had air conditioner specialists who could turn off the air conditioner if somebody didn't comply. And you know, they are an armed force, an irregular armed force. Or, as you argue, they are an arm of the Venezuelan armed forces. They are the Viet Cong of Venezuela. So, you know, if they keep messing with us, they have the potential of eating a Hellfire missile, and that's just the way it goes.
If they didn't know it 10 days ago, they know it now.
They know it now. Yeah. Yeah.
You know, it's like when you recruit people in Puerto Cabello to send them with drugs to Trinidad, they are going to know that there is an ever increasing probability that they'll eat a hellfire and become a shark jump, and that's it. I'm all for it, by the way. I'm all for it. Um, I had something that I wanted to show you before. Well, I'll show you this one first. Uh, YouTube limited our last Sunday's or Saturday's show. There we go. Because apparently we're still a danger to society, my friend. How about that?
It's not suitable for most advertisers.
Imagine that. Why? I don't know. Maybe because we made fun of the trans fuck who started killing people yet again. Or maybe we made a point of signaling the Hamas humanitarian who beheaded prisoners or civilians in the kibbutzim on October 7. Maybe, just maybe. Who knows? In the world
really
of Google and our Silicon Valley oligarchs, the truth is still unwelcome.
Well, okay, they said it's not suitable for advertisement. That's weasel words. It should be up to the advertisers whether or not they find our content suitable. It shouldn't be up to YouTube to make that decision for them. And
absolutely,
you know, if the advertisers say, "I don't give a fuck," you know, give them my put my commercial on their show, then YouTube should just say thank you and take its 80% or however how much it takes from ads. I don't know. I when I watch, I think it's Amazon Prime. It may be Netflix too. Before the movie starts, they have this gigantic disclaimer warning you that, oh, you're watching a movie about a serial killer, so it may have it may mention murder, and it may mention it may have smoking in it, and
If it's Jeffrey Dahmer, if it's Jeffrey Dahmer, you may mention some peculiarities of cuisine.
well, it's just really weird because obviously, if you're going to watch a Netflix movie or an Amazon Prime movie about a serial killer, you shouldn't need any disclaimers about the content. Or my favorite is they warn you about flashing lights. How many of us actually have medical conditions that'll cause us to have seizures if we see flashing lights? How many of us out there?
You know that in the gazillion times that I have seen flashing lights in, remember discos in the 80s and 70s? And there were
Yeah.
the flashing lights and the lasers and the gyrating mirrors. I don't recall ever seeing anybody react to it. Not
No,
once.
no, me either. And I don't know. I'm really tired of some greater authority warning me that my choice may be somehow the wrong choice to make. You see that on YouTube
The warnings
videos
on
too.
the show.
I watch
The
a lot of
warnings-
reviews. I watch a lot of reviews of horror movies on YouTube, and they say, it's a horror movie, so it's rated R, and it may make mention of cruelty to animals. So if you can't take hearing about cruelty to animals, then check out right now. And it's like, okay, it's a fictional movie. You're not going to see or hear a real animal being hurt. If the guy is going to be killing an animal in the movie, it's a fake animal. It's going to be computer graphics, or it's going to be a dummy, or whatever. And if you can't take that, if that's going to make you get up and run screaming out of the room, then you need to be institutionalized.
Yes.
Trump said he's open to reopening the federal mental asylums, and I say it's about time.
Yesterday, please do it. Just fucking do it. Just fucking do it. Send the crazies to the loony bin again. That social experiment has created nothing but death and pain for 4 decades. It's enough.
Well, I didn't watch the video, but there was a Ukrainian immigrant who was murdered on a light rail by a homeless guy who had a rap sheet full of assaults on women going back, years. And he was sitting behind her on the train, and he just stood up and he just cut her head off.
In Charlotte, North Carolina, the son of a bitch. Beautiful girl.
The city tried to suppress the video, and like I said, I didn't watch it, but I think it should not be suppressed. It should be there for people who want to watch it. And the city clearly tried to suppress it because they don't want it known that they let monsters like this wander around. And if the mental asylums are open again, he'll get thrown in, and we'll never hear from him again. He'll get 50 years in a mental asylum, and that'll be that.
Starting with the mayor and the city council in Charlotte. who obviously are delusional and deranged. Because what they're doing there,
Well,
letting these people loose, is the definition of insanity.
well, we always have to go back to the voters. The voters have the ability to vote in people um, who won't do that sort of thing. So the voters obviously support letting homeless people run around murdering people, because to oppose it would make you like Trump, and we can't be like Trump. That's evil. Trump is evil. Trump is literally Hitler.
Yeah, he's Hitler, but they don't know me. Uh, this guy, and I've seen the video. Um, when he gets up out of the blue, the girl is doing something with her
He's on her
phone,
phone.
probably chatting or something of the sort, and he just gets up, pulls a knife, and proceeds to cut her neck off.
Yep. Yeah.
That's the reason the death penalty was invented.
Mhm.
If anybody ever was a candidate for old Sparky, this is it. We have him on video. There is no excuse. There is no doubt. This is the guy. This is what he did. If they don't fry the son of a bitch, why do we have a death penalty in the books at all?
Well, I saw a video from Ireland, and it showed two Irish cops. The Irish call their constabulary the Garda. It showed two Irish cops walking their beat, and from out of nowhere, a little tiny man attacked them with a knife, screaming "Allah Akbar," and he stabbed one of the cops. So the cops took out their telescoping batons, and they started beating the hell out of him, telling him to lie down. Two separate women who did not know each other interfered to try and make the cops stop hitting this man. So the cops are in the middle of trying to handcuff this guy. He's fighting, and they have to shove off two different women who came from two different directions to tell them to stop. It's amazing. I don't know if the Irish Garda are armed with firearms, but a guy runs up to you with a knife and stabs you, yelling "Allah Akbar." That man was invented to be a target for a firearm.
Yes,
that's his use here on Earth is to be a target.
And the women jumping in to defend him too.
Well, they need to be arrested, and they need to be charged, and they need to serve some time. Because
first you need to change their attitude. Let's face it.
No, I mean they obviously didn't push them hard enough. If I were one of the cops trying to handcuff this guy who just stabbed my partner or me, I would have punched these women as hard as I could in the face, and that'll stop them. They'll go somewhere else, or they'll sit down and wait for the ambulance. But I was just amazed. Two different women, two different strangers, and their first instinct, they see a cop trying to arrest someone.
And then you charge them for being accessory to attempted murder or to murder, depending on whether the guy was successful or not. Because that's what they're doing. They're accessory after the fact.
This guy was the wimpiest. If this guy had attacked me with a knife, he would have been the easiest guy in the world to take down, because it was pathetic. It was just pathetic. But that's Ireland for you. You see the cop, and your first instinctive response is to interfere and make the cop stop trying to arrest someone. You instinctively take the side of the person being arrested, even though he's a jihadist terrorist who's just tried to murder someone with a knife.
Poster indexes say that YouTube is not going to like this conversation. I totally agree, and I don't give a rat's ass. And that's why I'm not going back there. but yeah, now there is a point. We need we have made a lot of progress in the past year or so in the U.S. as the world has been losing ground on the question of freedom of speech around the world. The new laws in Europe are an assault on reason. And in the US, while there have been some positive changes, and we don't have supercalifragilisticexpialidocious idiots uh, trying to censor everybody, we still have a shit ton of censorship. And it needs to end. It needs to end at this point. Um,
Well, I bought a membership on Twitter just so I wouldn't get ads. And I haven't seen anything that I didn't want to see. Like when I go on Twitter, I don't just scroll down through my feed.
mhm.
I search for something and then I look at that. So the fear that Twitter was going to turn into this sewer, it hasn't actually happened in my experience.
Mm.
But I don't go looking for sewage. I don't go looking
Yeah.
for sewage. And people's attitudes have changed. The police are policing again. The people are saying what's on their mind again. And the ones who spent all that time screeching and forcing people to hold their tongues, they've lost all their influence. I see cops all the time say that people getting arrested, they all say, "I can't breathe." And the cops now always say, "If you can speak, you can breathe."
You can breathe. Bye. Yeah,
Yeah.
I see them too. Let's look at some idiots who never had any problem with censors. I know you love this guy.
Oh, he looks like
No
raw
one
steak.
can plausibly claim that a Christian family are in Hamas. Okay, so like what? Tell me, you can't claim that they're in Hamas while simultaneously claiming that Hamas is a group of jihadis. They're Islamic extremists, which they also claim.
Wow, you cannot claim that Hamas are jihadist extremists.
Constantly, which I don't know if that's true, by the way. It seems more like a political organization, but whatever it is, they're telling us constantly they're al-Qa'ida. So it can't also be true that Christians are a member of al-Qa'ida. Sorry.
Yeah.
So then we know they're not in Hamas. So why did they get killed? Why was their church blown? No one can.
Wait, what is he talking about? Is he talking about the weapons depots that Hamas?
He
Is
doesn't
that what
make
he's
a lot
talking
of
about?
sense. Let me put it again. Let me put
Yeah,
it
but
again.
what is he talking about? There's no such thing as a Hamas church. What is he
No,
talking about? Is he talking about a Gazan church?
probably a church in Gaza. As we know, there are so many Christian churches in Gaza because they've always been tolerated by Hamas. Not, uh, but I don't know what he's talking about. Seriously, I don't. Uh, Let me see if I can put him back again here. Where are? Wait.
Okay, hold on. There was a Greek Orthodox Church of Saint Porphyrius, the Holy Family Catholic Church, and the Gaza Baptist Church. And all three were blown up by the Israelis because they were weapons depots. And they were meeting spaces for Hamas. So
Yes.
this notion that a building made
Yeah,
of mortar,
apparently,
a
yeah,
building
apparently,
made of mortar and concrete is somehow holy and can't be attacked regardless. A church is made for people to go into and pray and listen to a priest tell them things. And so if they're not using it for that, and they're using it to hold meetings of terrorists and they're packing it full of weapons, it doesn't matter that it was officially a church. You bomb it flat.
But we know that cannot happen because God would fulminate them. Of course, Hamas uses churches or any other building, hospitals, kindergartens, to store weapons, to hold their meetings, to launch attacks. What's new about it? Why do they do that, among other things? Because they're a terrorist organization. They don't give a shit about the rules of the game. The thing with this asshole is that he says, they say this because they say they're a terrorist organization, but I don't know about that. They're more of a political organization.
Well, he's not arguing in good faith. He's lying his fat ass off.
Of course not.
And Hamas makes its churches and mosques and hospitals into targets so that useful idiots like Tucker Carlson will complain about it.
Yeah.
But
and the other church that they claim was damaged, bombed by the Israelis, wasn't even damaged. The entire thing was a lie.
Well, the Israelis have to measure. On this hand, if we let Hamas continue to exist, they're going to attack us again like they did on October 7th. Then on the other hand, they say, but if we continue our war against Hamas, Tucker Carlson won't like us. So they have to measure those two things. And Tucker can say whatever he wants. It's not going to change anything. It's not going to change any Israeli attitudes. Nothing the world says or does at this point. I mean, Joe Biden starved the Israelis of weaponry, and that didn't stop them.
No,
so,
and listen to this, because just in case you think that was he bespoke. Listen to this shit. This is pseudo morality at its worst. I'm sorry, I think I picked the same one. Okay, hold on just 1 second. I made a mistake and put the same one again.
oh,
But I wanted to show you this other one. It looks very much the same, but isn't.
Let me just say, I would be totally comfortable sharing condolences with Osama bin Laden's family. I hate Osama bin Laden. On the other hand, if somebody dies, it's okay to say, I'm sorry to his family that
he had a toddler.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
That's immaterial. I would say that to the family of an executed murderer in a prison. It doesn't mean I support the murder or the murderer, but this is family. Like, that's okay. That's called, like...
Did you hear what I heard?
No, I didn't understand a word because it was the tape was all fucked up. Something about allowing Osama bin Laden to say goodbye to his family or something like that.
Well, no, it's I would have no problem expressing my condolences to the family of Osama bin Laden because he's a terrorist, but they're family. I wouldn't have a problem expressing my condolences to the family of a guy executed for murder either. First of all, you're confusing criminal with war criminal. Uh, Second, where is all the shit from? Do you give a flying crap
Where's all?
about the feelings of Hamza bin Laden?
Well, I don't care about the feelings of the families of executed criminals. Like why? How does that even come up as a concept? Like does Tucker Carlson know families of executed criminals that he goes and has dinner with
No.
and tells them how sorry he is? I mean, I did this is such a weird concept.
No, but he wants to be provocative with this sympathy for the family of bin Laden, and has no better idea than to make a false comparison with families of convicted criminals, who may or may not be related to the activities of the convicted criminals. The families of jihadists are committed to the activities of the jihadists.
Well, it's just it's an inane concept. It doesn't matter. Like Tucker Carlson's nobody's condolences mean anything. I mean,
that you can say as well.
Yeah, I mean, if I lost a close family member, a wife, a daughter, a son, I wouldn't expect people to send me to call up and say how sorry they were. I've met strangers at 2:30 in the morning or 3 in the morning at a cash register or on an airplane or whatever, and I've asked them, how you doing? Not expecting anything in return, and they've answered me with questions like, well, my mother just died, or my son just committed suicide. And what I always respond to is, the way I always respond is, oh, that's terrible. And then they tell me about it. But I don't offer my condolences because it doesn't mean anything. It doesn't make people feel better. And in fact, when you say I'm very sorry, then they feel obliged to say thank you. And it's one thing, okay, when your father died, I told you that was bad. I didn't go overboard with that. We didn't talk a lot about it. I met him that one time. He seemed like a very nice man. And when he died, you told me, and I told you I was sorry to hear that. And you spoke about it a little bit. And then that was it. And the notion that Tucker Carlson would want to express his condolences to Osama bin Laden's family, I mean, okay, you don't know them. Like when would it ever come up? Are you going to go? Are you going to go find them and tell them how sorry you are? It's an inane concept. Like, why is he even bringing it up? Is he kissing the ass of his? Who's his guest?
He wants to win the compassion race. He wants to show how compassionate and open-minded he is. And what he's showing is that he's a moron.
Well, he loves Putin. He loves the Russians. He hates the Ukrainians and thinks they all deserve to die. He's not compassionate.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's
in the words of Terry in the chat here, Tucker has gone completely up his own ass. That's the only explanation that I've. He has gone completely up his own ass.
Yeah. When he was on Fox News, he had a producer and a director to keep him in line. And now that he's his own boss, he doesn't know what the hell he's doing. He has no idea how he's coming across.
No, it's
totally. Who's his guest there?
I have no
Who is his
idea.
guest there?
I
Yeah.
have zero idea. I don't care. I didn't even try to find out.
I think it was some Muslim guy, and I think he was kissing ass. And, it's the weirdest thing. Out of all the Muslims in the world, you choose to be, to put as representative of Islam, you choose Osama bin Laden. I don't know. It's just really bizarre. And okay, bin Laden was killed in 2011, right? Isn't that when Obama came out?
Yeah.
And so
Yes.
that's 14 years ago. Why is he still? It's like, I remember when I was still on Twitter, suddenly these people would be talking about Richard Nixon and COINTELPRO and all this shit. And it was like, Richard Nixon, you're still obsessed. Stephen King wrote this. I don't know if it's a novel or a novella, but it was made into a movie that's out now, and it's called The Long Road, and it takes place in America in some dystopian future, and young men go out and they walk nonstop, and anyone who stops is killed by soldiers who are accompanying them, and the last one to still be alive wins a house and money and fame and everything. And Stephen King said that it's an allegorical view of the Vietnam War. And it's like, you're still talking about the Vietnam War?
Well, he's been in the days of pot since the Vietnam War.
Well, Stephen King, there was a study done on people who avoided service in the Vietnam War. And it turns out that they feel guilt. And the Vietnam War it was a subject of more lies than you could ever imagine. 2/3 of the combat troops were volunteers. If you were drafted, you had a 25% chance of being sent to Vietnam. And of that 25%, there was only a 25% chance that you would be in the combat arms. So if you were drafted and sent to Vietnam, you had a 1/50th chance of being in the combat arms. So here's Stephen King writing novel after novel after novel after novel that mentions the Vietnam War. In both of his autobiographies, he mentions the terrors of people asking. He has really bad eyesight, so he was declared 4F because of his eyesight, and he was mocked by people. Why aren't you in uniform? He says. I was alive during the Vietnam War. I watched it on TV at night. I never think about the Vietnam War. Stephen King is still thinking about the Vietnam War. He's still writing about it. It's an amazing sort of fixation the man has. The Vietnam War ended in 1973, I think.
In the meantime, in answer to your previous question, Father Chris is
75.
telling us who the guy with Cucker Tarlson was, and it's priceless. I'm sorry. Shahid Qureshi, a contractor working for the Bureau of Near East Affairs, terminated over the weekend following a couple of incidents in which his loyalty to Trump was questioned. An Iranian-American former State Department official fired last month after appearing with Tucker. Another Iranian spy in the State Department, if you ask me.
Well, didn't Pritzker brag about getting inside information about ICE from the Trump administration, from the deep staters that are still in the Trump administration?
He did.
Well, he's an idiot for saying that, because they'll start giving out they'll start giving out barium meals, and they'll find out who's
They'll find out who it
the
is,
spies, and they'll all be gone.
and nail him. And ICE is going to Chicago. They're already on the way. So, Pritzker can do whatever he wants. Maybe even go on a diet. But it's not going to help him. And the same
I
thing
guess the equipment
in
is already
Chicago.
the equipment has started to arrive, and
Yes.
nobody's stopping it. Nobody's pulling over the trucks and everything. There's like about 20 Antifa who every night they gather around the ICE facility in Portland, and they play ear-splitting music and scream through megaphones.
Yes.
And the residents have called the police, and the police say we can't do anything about it. So Portlanders are suffering from the monster they built themselves has turned against them, and there's nothing that can be done. It's a tiny little monster, but it's a monster nonetheless.
Pritzker?
Portland.
Oh, Portland.
Oh, never mind. What are you talking about, Pritzker?
No. You got cut off a little bit, and I didn't understand. Now I do. There are protesters outside the Illinois Naval Station. Listen, what happened to the protesters in LA? Do you remember those? A century ago, like 4 or 5 weeks ago? Are they still there?
They accomplished nothing. No, of course not.
Of course not. It took a couple of days of the National Guard. And now people say, why is the National Guard here? Nothing is going on. Precisely, morons. There are protesters now in front of the Illinois Naval Station. Good, they're not going to be there for long. And
no, I saw a video of some guy wearing a tie-dye T-shirt in front of the ICE station in Portland, and a cop wearing camouflage came up behind him and whacked him and knocked him down, and they arrested him. And all these people are saying he didn't do nothing, and it's like, well, did you see what he did all day? Did you see what he did in the previous 10 minutes? Did you see what he did in the previous hour? Obviously, they wanted to arrest him for some reason. He was wearing a bright tie-dye T-shirt, so he was easily recognizable. They arrested him for doing something, and we have all these leftist lawyers saying, it's the Gestapo. It's like, yeah.
This is getting better. In Chicago, Brandon Johnson, the asshole who was claiming the other day that he's going to defend Chicago, a city established or founded by slaves. That would come as a novelty for the founders of Chicago. He wants $800 million to create groups to manage the chaos. He signed an executive order introducing forbidding the Chicago police to cooperate with the National Guard. So, you know who's going to be arrested if he keeps it up?
Everybody.
He will. If he keeps interfering with ICE, he will be arrested. They will make an example of him.
Well, they need to make an example of somebody, so why not Johnson?
Yeah, seems like a good choice for starters. Not that there are any other in Chicago that would do anything surprisingly good. The entire political system in Chicago is rotten to the core. Same thing in New York. I saw. I think I told you last night, but there was this campaign propaganda thing with Andrew Cuomo and oh God, I told you last night, and now I've forgotten his name. Um, Tawana Brawley, asshole.
The what? Oh, Al Sharpton.
Al Sharpton. Eh, Al Sharpton, who looks, by the way, like the corpse of Al Sharpton. The guy looks dead already.
Yep.
Uh, with Andrew Cuomo in a fancy restaurant, talking about the two friends who are going to fix New York. And I'm thinking, no wonder Mandami is doing well. Who wants any of these two losers?
No, I mean people are in love with Mamdani because they're not thinking, they're not listening to what he's actually saying.
Yeah, and he's not Al Sharpton.
Yeah, he's not Al Sharpton. He's slick young guy with brilliant white teeth. It'll be the same thing. I mean, they elected Johnson in Chicago, and then they elected Johnson. Yeah.
And manicure hands, because it's a guy who never worked in his life. And they elected Johnson in Chicago because they always find the biggest asshole in Chicago. They couldn't find a bigger one than Johnson. Otherwise, they would have gone back to Beetlejuice. Remember that stupid cow?
Yep. Oh, yeah. Definitely.
You know, it's like, yeah, that's what they do. In New York, the anomaly was Giuliani. Because everybody else they elected was either a scoundrel or a piece of shit, or both. Remember Dinkins?
Uh-huh.
How about Eric Adams?
Yeah.
Now people speak well of Eric Adams. Why?
I don't know.
He's the guy, remember, that the entire NYPD turned their backs on at a cop's funeral. Now some people are trying to tell me he's not so bad after all. Why?
Oh, they're dummies. They don't know anything. They can't be bothered to learn anything.
No. I mean, don't get me wrong. Mandambi is Armageddon, but Eric Adams is no better.
Well, he's got his record as mayor.
Which led to the rise of Mandami. It's just wait till he gets in Gracie Mansion. They're going to be begging for Vaseline. They're begging for Vaseline. At this point, my darling, they don't need Vaseline. This big. You can have a racehorse go in without touching a hair. No, these Eric Adams, with his love of socialist and fascist policies, from the idea that everybody in New York has the right to housing. So we need to build housing in the city. Because every time they did it, it worked so nice. Remember when he told stories of how he joined the police department because he wanted to change it from the inside?
Yep.
Great motivation for a cop, isn't it?
Well, he's a Black Panther, so what kind of a cop was he ever going to make?
And that's where we get to the point. What's the difference between the Black Panther and a jihadist? Not much. Not much. It's a question of what pastel color you're going to use for your for your watercolors. It's the same shit. I'm not particularly alarmed with one or the other. I think both of them are two sides of the same corrupt coin. And I don't see
Yeah, I
anybody.
mean, hmm no, I mean, I don't care what happens in any blue city because
Yeah,
it's the voters. It's the voters' responsibility to vote intelligently. You know, California is not going to recover for decades, if ever. Um, Californians are they do things like throw glass bottles at ICE. Then when they're arrested, they pitch a tantrum and they screech, "I didn't do anything wrong." And
right.
it's like, well, this is why you're getting arrested, because you're an idiot. You're an idiot. You're a grown-up voting Californian, and you're an idiot. Um, I don't know. I just the state has worn me out. I have absolutely no emotional ties to this place anymore. And I've been coming here since 1967, but when I leave, I'm never going to look back. Um,
Yep.
it's just not.
Somebody.
It's not. Go ahead.
No, no. I can't wait for you to free
Somebody.
yourself there. Somebody in the chat is saying that there's a rumor. I heard it too. That Trump offered Adams an ambassadorship to retire from the race. I hope not. I hope not. Um, if so, I believe Swaziland doesn't have a U.S. ambassador, but I hope not. I mean, why? Why to favor
Well,
Andrew Cuomo?
the claim was that he offered both Curtis Sliwa and Adams jobs if they would drop out.
Right.
Well, Cuomo, he's not running as a Republican, right?
Yep. He's
Is
running as an
Cuomo running as a
independent.
Republican?
No, he's running as an
Right.
independent.
But he would not be that much better than Mamdani.
No, not at all.
So I don't see why Trump would if anything he would offer Adams and Cuomo jobs to drop out so that Curtis Sliwa, who's got at least name recognition, can run against Mamdani. But I mean, I don't see Trump getting involved in the race.
I don't think he should.
Anyway, Eric Adams, I just don't see him doing it. Curtis Sliwa involved. I mean, Curtis Sliwa wouldn't take a job from Trump to drop out. He wouldn't do it. Curtis
No.
Sliwa there's no upside for Curtis Sliwa to do it. And just
He's perfectly fine.
he's been yeah.
He's perfectly
No,
fine.
it's-
Listen,
it's-
I think that Curtis Lewa wouldn't know what to do if he won.
Well, he'd be like Jesse Ventura. He would get the job, and then he would, or Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Yep.
There's some congressman, Tom something or other. He used to, when he was in the California legislature, he would try to talk to Schwarzenegger about the spending, and Schwarzenegger would pat him on the back and say, "Don't bring me any bad news." And I could see Schwarzenegger doing that. Because, Schwarzenegger was never going to be a good governor. Not he was good at running his business, but his business was himself. He perfectly understood his own star appeal, and so he deliberately didn't learn how to speak English without an accent, and he basically played the same role throughout his entire career. He knew himself, he knew his business, which was himself. But I wouldn't know how to be the governor of California. That would be a bitch. You arrive and you're there, and you've got 1 billion people telling you what you have to do, and you have to sort through them all, and whoever's helping you out has their own personal agenda. I wouldn't know how to be governor of California.
Oh, don't worry, because Newscomb and Brown didn't know either.
I'd know how to be dictator of California, but I'd know how to be dictator of anywhere. Just tell people what to do, and you have to do it. But
that works. There'll be in the past 30 years, a governor of California who actually knew what to do as governor of California. Anybody.
I didn't understand any of that.
If there'll be any governor of California in the past, since Davis, that knew how to be a governor of California.
There aren't any.
Bingo, you'd be in good company because you wouldn't know either. So you fit right in. You fit right in the profile. So there you go. You'll be received in every restaurant with a "Good morning, Governor," and that's about it. That's all that's involved. Because these people don't know shit from Shinola anyway. But you will probably have the sense to veto most of the shit coming in from Sacramento anyway.
Well, okay, someone like Newsom had to go into rehab when he was mayor of San Francisco.
Yep.
And he had an affair with his campaign manager's wife. He was just this ridiculous party boy, and now he's presented as a fighter. He's the only Democrat who's fighting for you. None of the others are fighting. Newsom's not fighting either. Newsom. Well, this is the thing. This is what they always say: "I'll fight for you." And what does that mean?
And that means that he'll tell you to stay home during COVID while he goes to a restaurant.
Yeah, I mean, Newsom has done nothing rational for the state of California. What I always go back to, there's a science fiction movie called Loopers that was made in the year 2014. And Loopers takes place in the year 2045. And it shows Los Angeles as a dystopia. And the dystopia that they thought of in 2014 is actually better than the reality of Los Angeles today. The movie Dystopia isn't as bad as the reality of 2025 because they couldn't imagine how bad things were going to be. And that's all Gavin Newsom's doing. He's turned this state and our two big cities into dystopias. And of course, he would deny it until he died. He would deny it all the way up to own death on his deathbed. You know, we're back to the same thing. Give us more money for the homeless people. We just need to build more housing for homeless people. So your taxes have to go up again.
He did very well the first time they gave him money for the homeless people. 25 billion disappeared.
Yeah. It went into his pockets. It went into the pockets of his buddies.
His wife just got 30 million she never asked for.
Yep.
I mean, would it be nice? I mean, can you imagine what we could do with a couple of million of free money from the state of California?
Well, these people are so bizarre. Well, they're so bizarre. They have millions stuffed into their pockets, and it's never enough. They don't spend it well. I mean, like going to the French Laundry. There's a guy who's got a YouTube channel, and he's called the Anti-Chef, because when he first started cooking, he'd never cooked, so he learned how to be a chef. And he's got a cookbook by the chef who owns the French Laundry. He made a grilled cheese sandwich with tomato soup, and it was the worst thing I've ever seen in my life. The tomato soup was chilled tomato consomme that was clear. It was clear. It looked like a bowl of water. It was tomato flavored water. And the sandwich was some kind of horrific cheese that you could only get in Bulgaria or something like that. And the bread was some kind of artisan bread. And it was grilled in duck fat or something. I mean, it was just nightmare food.
Very
it was food.
Very trendy.
It was food you would get in like a castle in Transylvania or something, and it would be food that Gavin Newsom would eat. You know,
yes.
A grilled cheese sandwich fried in duck fat.
Yeah, a dog turd sautéed in duck fat with a confiture of strawberries. And now it's Nouvelle Cuisine, and you can eat it. It's still a dog turd.
What got me about this is that the chef, the French Laundry, and all that. It's so tacky. It's so tacky that a grilled cheese sandwich and a bowl of a small bowl of tomato soup. That shouldn't be food that's going to end up costing you $150 at an upscale chef's restaurant. You shouldn't be going there for grilled cheese sandwiches and a bowl of tomato soup. It's retarded. It's insane. My brother lives in Vegas, and Vegas is dying because all the hotels have forgotten that it's possible to price yourself out of the market. So what it used to be was that Vegas had cheap rooms and cheap food so that you would get people in there to gamble.
For the masses,
always wins. The house always wins.
Yes.
But now people are showing their receipts. $60 hamburgers. You know?
I mean, $16 hamburgers is any place around here is $16 to $22 hamburgers. That's the price. I mean, it's insane. And it went up. It went up in 23, and it stayed up there.
Well, Vegas is going to die if people stop coming to Vegas because it's too expensive, and they can go gamble somewhere closer to home, or they can gamble online. That's what they're going to do. And The people running Vegas are all Democrats.
They're idiots. I mean, if now down here in Florida, the Indian reservations all have casinos, and now they have casinos on
Mhm.
boats, and they have casinos everywhere. Nobody has to travel to Vegas or Atlantic City or any place else to gamble. They can do it right there. They don't have to go to the Cayman Islands or Puerto Rico or Vegas. So there is a huge market that the casinos have lost. 30 years ago, I was approached by Argosy. They own casinos in Vegas and in the Dominican Republic, and they wanted, and I helped them launch an airline uh, to the Dominican Republic. And I remember after I did the studies, I said, there is no way this is going to be ever in the black. You're going to lose money on every flight. And he says to me, I don't care. So I lose $200 per seat. But I have 200 people arrive every other hour at my casino. And I'm going to make up the $200 and then more because people walk into the casino and they say to me, here's my money, take it. And I take it. And I have a business with no inventory, with no risk, where people walk into my store and throw money at my face. But if they're not there, I have no business. If I depend on American Airlines to block seats for me, I have no business. If I can get people there by the plane load, don't worry. You lose the $200 per seat. That's perfectly fine. And it worked. And they used to have, these casino junkets where people paid $50 round trip, as opposed to 300 or 400 for a regular airline. And they got a $200 coupon for the casino to boot. And people took the trip, took the voucher, went to the casino, lost a couple of $1,000, and Ergosi was laughing all the way to the bank. They've forgotten their business model. They tried to turn Vegas into Disneyland. They tried to turn it into a family vacation. And now they have all of these pharaonic hotels that cost a fucking fortune just to keep running. And they're charging prices that people are finding all the destinations. It's never going to work for them until they figure
Also,
out, oh shit, we just got to get them here.
it Vegas can't be for a family vacation because there's nothing for little kids to do.
Yeah,
There's no theme parks in Vegas. There's no Disney World. There's nothing like that.
yeah, no, they tried, they tried to have, they tried to develop the convention business. So there are a shit ton of conventions, gamer conventions, electronics conventions, and all that jazz. It's too expensive. It's too expensive, too big, too cumbersome. People would rather go to, I don't know, Atlanta, Miami, Orlando, and they have something else to do. You want to do it family wise?
Well,
You have
here in
a
California,
lot of parts.
I hadn't had a Domino's pizza for maybe 20 years.
Oh,
So
that's not long enough.
I don't know, maybe 3 weeks ago, I ordered a Domino's pizza. It was a 16-inch pizza with ground beef and onions. And with the tip for the driver, it was $60.
Holy fuck.
And I thought, they're not going to be able to survive. A $60 pizza? Like I've never heard of such a thing. Back when I used to buy Domino's 20 years ago, I think the most I ever paid for a pizza was like $19, $20 or something for a large one with like 8 toppings. But it was a $60 pizza, and I ordered it online, and I was like, really? So sure enough, it came, and it was just a Domino's pizza. It didn't taste any different than it ever had. But now it was 3 times the price, maybe closer to 4 times the price that it was since the last time I ordered it.
I don't know, for $60,
California's cheap.
For $60 a pizza, it better be covered in black truffles.
Well, it should be about this thick, and it should be like a cake. It should be like 6 pizzas on top of each other. That's what it should be. But yeah, I don't go to fast food, but the last time I think I went to Burger King, and it was like $25 for 2 double cheeseburgers, large fries, and I think a cookie or something. But I mean, this state is insane. They said the price of housing is going down because the illegals are leaving, but the price now in California, it's in some places, I think down the street, the gas is going for $5.30 a gallon. So this place it's headed to where Russia is headed.
Yes, California in particular, yes. I don't know. It's I'm surprised that they still have a business in California with $60 pizzas. That's ridiculous. That's honest to goodness ridiculous.
Yeah.
You have all kinds of offers. From good quality frozen pizza between $5 and $10. Some from California Pizza Kitchen, or some of the higher brands, they're maybe $9.90 or $10. The run of the mill ones $5-6. What does Domino's Pizza have that would justify 10 times more?
Nothing.
Other than the acidity in their tomato sauce.
Well, it just tasted warm, and then when I ate a piece the next day, it had no flavor at all. Cold pizza is supposed to be really delicious. It had no flavor at all. And I was just, it's like I'm not going to Domino's anymore. Not with $60 pizzas.
Obviously not. Costco says boat guy has a huge pizza for $10 to $11. Yeah, it's like 18 inches. And but the thing is, you have so many options out there. Why are people still paying $60? Obviously, some are because the business is still there. But it baffles me that it still exists. Around here,
years ago, I used to see
that would go belly up.
I used to see Domino's pizza cars driving up and down the street all the time. I haven't seen one in years. So who knows? Maybe the franchisee is pouring his own money into it or something in order to survive. In-N-Out Burger is leaving California, and the woman who runs it looks like she's about 32 years old, and she said that California is the least business-friendly state in the union, So she's going to Texas, and Texas is glad to have her. In-N-Out is now closing franchises rather than opening them here in California. So
Yep. She claims that the franchises will remain, but I have my doubts, frankly. Maybe for the time
I
being,
don't think they will.
but when their model moves to Tennessee, Texas, Kentucky, they're not coming back, and they're going to be closing
No.
the stores in California. I
Yeah.
have no doubt.
Yeah.
And
No, what's going to
same thing
happen
applies-
is that
Yeah.
what's going to happen is that the franchises are going to become all crappy and run down, and then the headquarters is going to close them down because they don't want them associated with their name.
Right.
That's
pull
what's
the
going
plug.
to happen.
Do you still have the Jack in the Box?
Yeah, we have Jack in the Box, but Jack in the Box is, I think, the most expensive. Jack in the Box and Taco Bell. If you go to Taco Bell and you order, say, 2 beef burritos and an order of nachos, that's about $40.
Holy shit!
Here,
Well, that's twice as much as it is over here.
Yep.
Here in Virginia, you'd be talking $15, $20 tops. But I can't imagine
sell-
spending $30 in that indigestion place.
Jack in the Box sells like double cheeseburgers, and I think they're about $9.50 or something like that. It's like $9 cheeseburgers. Yeah, I don't know. California is insane. The roads are like roads in Uganda now, and I mean, you can wreck your car going on the freeways. There are freeways that you have to avoid because everybody's going 80 miles an hour, and you hit some of these potholes at 80 miles an hour, you're going to tear your front axle off. And, they're constantly, every freeway has 2 lanes shut down. You never see anybody doing anything. When they claim that they're filling potholes, they just put asphalt in them, and then they put like a black goo over them, so the asphalt falls out about 2 or 3 months, and the road itself is concrete covered with asphalt, and the potholes go all the way down to the concrete, and they're not going to be able to fix the roads. I mean, it's too late. They're going to have to take out all the freeways in California, and there's no money to do that.
No, they lost 25 billion on housing for the poor that they can't find. I don't imagine they have a lot of money left for potholes.
Newsom went from a surplus to an outrageous deficit in less than a year. It's like, how did he do that? And there's no accounting for that.
No, not at all. Apparently, I'm not the only one who remembers Jack in the Box fondly. It was a good hamburger chain back in the day. They even had some in Mexico.
Yeah.
I remember in Mexico City, they had near Plaza de la República Jack in the Box with very spicy pico de gallo. It was a great little hamburger for a lunch on the run, much better than the tacos. But now,
well, they Jack in the Box, the food is really greasy. Like if you get onion rings, they're so greasy they make you sick. And they cook everything on this giant, they call it a grill, but it's just a huge frying pan. It's just like a big piece of metal. And I don't know.
Like
I
a
just
griddle.
okay. There's Chinese fast food restaurants all over the place that cater to Mexicans. So you can get. I stopped going years ago, but you could get, say, orange chicken, beef broccoli, and rice, but they wanted to sell you fried rice and fried noodles. So everything was just, it was just this huge box of saturated fat. And the consumers are always Mexicans. I never saw Asians. And there was a big scandal because it was discovered that the restaurants were fishing fat out of the sewer system. That's where they were getting their fat for cooking.
Oh, we're having a nice delay.
There we
So
go.
you stopped talking about 10 seconds before I stopped hearing you. Um, they say Jerry Brown justified a tax increase as the cure-all, end-all, ended up with a surplus, then came Gavin and spent it all. Yeah, it's uh, Gavin also had a big tax increase to cure it all, but he was ahead in the spending anyway. Um, I don't know. I really don't think there is a solution for California until the whole thing derails.
No, the state had an opportunity to recall him, and they turned it down. And they called his replacement, Larry Elder, the black face of white supremacy.
Yes, I
Now,
remember that.
what kind of idiot would fall for rhetoric like that? Well, the answer is Californians.
Well, I understand that now, it's the elections are so clean in California. They just found that a woman registered and voted for her dog. And the dog
Sure.
voted against the recall. So I guess he was very popular among canines.
Well, they were telling the voters told Gavin Newsom that they loved him. We love you.
Mm.
Now, the one person in the world, and I'm sure there's more, but Gavin Newsom is the least lovable person in the world. I mean, there's nothing there to love.
He's
And
like a
Gavin Newsom
there.
obviously he obviously doesn't love the voters. So for the voters to say, "We love you, Gavin," it's that weird California defiance where I saw something about British leftists. Somebody wrote that British leftists would gladly submit to decapitation by refugees in order to prove how superior they were to the flag wavers,
Yeah,
And
that's very British.
California voters, they will love Gavin Newsom as an act of defiance against conservatives.
Yep.
And Newsom, he's happy. He's stuffing his pockets. He doesn't care. When he leaves California, he's not going to look back either. When he runs for president, I mean, he's going to try like he may play in a place like Minnesota, but he's not going to play in any red state. He's not going to win any red state whatsoever.
No, I can't see that happening. He's going to play all right in Massachusetts or Vermont or the left coast. But I don't see him doing anything other than extremely poorly in a red state.
Also, he's going to be up against J.D. Vance. I mean, that's spectacular. That's absolutely spectacular. J.D. Vance, I mean, if Newsom agrees to one debate, which is all he'll agree to, it's going to be even more horrifying than that debate he did with Ron DeSantis.
I don't know. What do you think is going to happen? Because it's obvious now that Pacific Palisades will never be again. That all of this talk of easing permits and allowing people to go back and rebuild is bullshit. They haven't authorized little shit so far, but they are trying to speed up the process to have low-income housing built in a couple of projects there.
Yeah, that's all that's going to happen. They're going to build low-income housing, and the residents are eventually going to move somewhere else. That's what's going to happen.
Do you see this as creating any problem for the Democrats, losing donors or something?
No.
All of these fucking assholes were Democrat supporters, all of them.
Yeah. It's not going to mean anything because, okay, I saw a perfect California man. This elderly black woman came to his house. He was across the street, and his mother-in-law was in his house babysitting. He had an infant, and the infant was in front of the picture window. And this 60-pound elderly black woman walked into his yard, and he was across the street watching. And she was dragging a sledgehammer. And she went up on his porch, and she swung the sledgehammer into the window, and she shattered the window. And the mother-in-law was inside, and she saved the baby at the last second because she didn't think this was going to happen. And then the woman walked away saying that she was going to come back and do even more damage. So they interviewed this guy. The police came and arrested the old woman. She had dementia. And this man was a perfect beta male. He was slightly chubby. He had glasses and a beard. And he was crying. And he was saying, I wish someone would do something. Someone. Who? The police? No, you hate the police. Your neighbors? No, I'm sure you don't know them. Who? And do something. What? Grab her and make her stop or what? I don't know. He just wept and said, I wish someone would do something. He was entirely helpless. He sat there and he watched an old lady very laboriously drag a sledgehammer up onto his porch and then gather her strength and barely swing it. He could have walked across the street and walked up to her and just taken the sledgehammer out of her hands. And he didn't. He did nothing but watch. And then he cried and he said, I wish someone would do something. That's going to be the reaction of the people in Pacific Palisades. They're going to say, I wish someone would do something, and then they'll vote Democrat.
I think you're right.
Yep.
I wanted your opinion just to make sure, but I think you're right.
Because they only have two choices, Democrat or Republican, and they won't vote Republican because they've brainwashed themselves into thinking. I saw a YouTube video. It was a former far leftist who is now MAGA. And she said it was because her husband, it had taken her from 2016 till today to become MAGA. Her husband is a Trump supporter. And she said, since 2016, he's proven that every single thing I ever believed in was false. Every single thing I believed in was wrong. And we would have these long political conversations, and she finally understood that everything she thought she knew was a lie. So it took almost 10 years to convince this woman that she shouldn't be a leftist anymore. The people in Pacific Palisades, some of them lost everything, and they won't change their voting patterns. They They get up and they go to meetings where Karen Bass is there, and they tell Karen Bass about all their problems. She doesn't care. Don't waste your breath on Karen Bass. She's not even listening.
No,
You know, she lied to Trump's
not at
face.
all.
She said, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. You know, she doesn't care.
It's Karen Bass. Wasn't she somewhat connected to the Weather Underground too?
Oh, I don't know. I know that she did. Well, she had something to do with Cuba.
Yeah, she was in a training camp for young communists in Cuba.
Yeah.
Uh,
No, Karen Bass is a nitwit, and she's a famous nitwit. Everybody used to mock her, and so, of course, she would be elected mayor. She's a black nitwit, and so that means she's guaranteed to win.
Hmm.
No, I see these poor people. They go to these city halls, these city meetings, and they cry at the microphone, and it's like you're wasting everything. You're wasting all your energy. These people don't give a shit about you. My communist brother said that my New York brother, he said that he never thought of people as individuals, but rather as statistics.
Yes,
So
at least he's consistent.
yeah. So if somebody sees you as a statistic, you can't appeal to their humanity because they don't have any.
No, your individual suffering is irrelevant.
Exactly.
What matters
Exactly.
is the progress of society as a whole, regardless of how
when
many Jews fall by the wayside.
when Pacific Palisades started burning, you can bet your ass that people on the phone in City Hall were talking to each other about when we rebuild, we have to start putting low-income housing there. They were saying that before the fire was even put out.
Yeah,
And they're going to build low-income housing. They're going to turn Pacific Palisades into another shithole, and all the people who live there will abandon it. No, it's another. California just lost one of its famous gold rush towns. The whole thing just burned to the ground.
Hmm.
You know, we have no ability to put out fires anymore. I don't know why. I think things just happen now.
well,
I don't think anyone's in charge.
didn't you have a fire chief who was what was it? An obviously incompetent trans or no, the lesbian. He was going to,
Yeah.
but the problem is not who she went to bed with, but the notion that she wanted to make a fire department that was more appealing to lesbians or some shit like that. I mean, the woman was a complete lunatic.
Well, this is the
And
thing. Let's see. Let me just look up something really quick.
yeah, in the meantime, Terry, how many will actually admit to being wrong? Not one, Terry, not one.
Okay, I just looked it up. 5% of firefighters are women. 5%. That tallies with the number.
That's a high number.
That tallies with the number of women in all of law enforcement put together.
Yeah.
So this notion that you need this 5%. This is with every single female enticing hiring program and dropping of standards and everything. It's only at 5%. If you left things just the way they would go naturally, it would be at about 1%.
I was going to say no more than 1%.
Yeah.
It's simple. Look at yourself. Look at me. How many of that 5% can carry you out of a fire?
Well, this is the thing that okay, YouTube is now allowing videos that they wouldn't have allowed in 2020. And it's delusional women.
Not ours.
Delusional women getting into boxing rings with males.
Oh yeah.
Saying I can beat any man.
Mm-hmm.
And clearly the men are holding back, but they're mopping the earth with them. You can just see the difference. Okay, there was one video where a woman was boxing with a man, and she sucker punched him. He turned around and she hit him in the back of the head. And so he said, "Oh, a sucker puncher, eh?" And then he dropped all. He stopped holding back, and he just started going at her, and she was helpless, absolutely helpless. There was no way she could defend herself. And I think too many American women have brainwashed themselves into. You see this now all over the place. Women on the street, young women are asked, what do you think of men? Oh, I hate them. They serve no purpose. And it's like, you hate an entire gender? I mean, do you know how mentally ill you are to say something like that?
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally psychotic.
Yeah. So all those people, they all have to. I mean, those people aren't voting Republican. No. They all have to have a reckoning. They all have to see reality. And until they do, they're still going to.
That's what I said. It's not going to change until it goes completely off the rails.
Yeah.
That is something. Socialism is a peculiar system. You can vote yourself into a socialist system, but you're not coming out of the socialist system without a war or a Great Depression. The economy has to go completely off rails, and even then it's not guaranteed, by the way, because you're going to have a lot of people saying we need to do a collective effort, which is what they've been doing in Cuba for the past 40 years. The economy in Cuba went off the rails in the first 20 years of socialism. Since then, they've been running on fumes and hopium, because if we suffer just a little bit more, we might be able to put it back on the rails. And it's never going to happen. And all you're going to have is more people going hungry, more people sleeping under the stars, until the whole fucking place goes back into the Paleolithic. And then, maybe then, you can start again.
When I was on YouTube, Twitter, I had a conversation with a guy. California has over $1 trillion in unfunded pension mandates.
Yep. And
the budget for California is 90 odd billion. 90 billion is such a tiny percentage of $1 trillion. And some guy said to me, well, this just proves that we have to raise taxes on the rich and the corporations. And I said, you don't understand. If you confiscated 100% of the revenue from every corporation and all the assets of all the rich, you wouldn't even begin to make the tiniest dent into that $1 trillion. And the $1 trillion in unfunded mandates, that keeps going, that keeps growing, that keeps getting bigger and bigger. There isn't enough money in the country to pay that off. And he said, well, it just proves that you have to tax them higher. This is somebody whose brain doesn't work.
No.
You know, he has his idea, and reality is not going to turn him one way or the other. Tax the rich, tax the corporations, everything will be fine.
He probably also subscribes to the better distribution of the pie theory, which is another fallacy. It's
Yeah.
not a static resource, for crying out loud.
Well, the economy isn't a pie; it's a pie factory.
Right.
So
You want to solve the problem of your unfunded pension plans? Grow the economy.
exactly. Make
Double the
California.
GDP of California, and all of a sudden it's not a fucking problem anymore.
No, there are cities in California that had to do away with their fire and police departments because of the pension mandates.
They can't afford it anymore.
Yep.
And that's how it's going to be for everybody now. And you say, oh God, how are you going to double the GDP? Make it business friendly. Right now, we're
Exactly.
seeing how California can have its GDP with all the corporations leaving the state. Because what you're having now is millionaires and corporations and everybody who can is getting the fuck out of Dodge. And that is further reducing the ability of California to raise a sufficient revenue. And what are they going to do? Double the tax rates? More people will leave until they're left with nothing but, stray dogs and illegals.
Well, it's funny
What's
you mentioned
next?
stray dogs. Think about this. Anthropologists are studying the relationship between dogs and homeless people in Detroit because
Yes.
it's showing them how humans domesticated the wolf.
Yes.
Homeless people and stray dogs in Detroit in the year 2025 are perfectly replicating the domestication of timber wolves by Cro-Magnons. I mean, it's astonishing. Like, how is that even a reality? Well, it's a reality because the city's run by Democrats, and it's run by Democrats because the voters prefer Democrats.
Yeah. And in the case of Detroit, the result has been more farmland.
More farmland.
A lot of the city reverted to farmland.
Yep.
Wonderful. They keep going at it, and it's going to be all farmland again, and we won't have a memory of what was once Detroit.
I never saw more abandoned motels in my life than I did in the state of Massachusetts.
Oh God!
The whole side of the road was just,
E-
they were
even in-
abandoned.
yeah, even in relatively affluent areas, you have all of these motels on Route 1 is the one that goes close to the coast. Um, and they're abandoned. They're locked up, and some pretty decent hotels as well. Uh, it's gone.
Yep.
You can drive, and not just Massachusetts. The same thing is happening in New Hampshire, in Maine. If you drive from Boston to Portland, Maine on US 1, you're gonna see a shit ton of those,
Mhm.
and it's painful because it's such beautiful areas, but it's impossible to do business there. It's impossible to do business. It's impossible to hire people. The amount of money that as a businessman you have to put on top of whatever you pay your employees means you can't hire them anymore. Or you have to sell the night at the motel at $200. Nobody can afford that. Those who can afford that don't go to the motels. It's a disaster area. Funny you should say that because I know that That area all too well. And in England, it's even worse. It's even worse. It's disastrous. But you know, they still have salamander districts.
Mm.
In Massachusetts, there is one that goes from Worcester to Amesbury, Salisbury. That is like the most ridiculous fucking district ever. But there we
No,
go.
as long as people think that the answer to everything is high taxes, then you know um, nothing's going to improve.
No, on the contrary, I can tell you, and I've actually seen it a few times. And of course, if you study the world, you're gonna see that it's an inviolable law of economics. You keep raising taxes, you destroy the economic base of the country. Thank you very much. Now comes savagery because people
Well,
will
look at the
revert to
Irish.
Romagnon.
The Irish made Ireland the place for business in Europe, and then they said, you
Yes,
know what? You know what we need? We need punitive taxes and free shit for everybody. And then Ireland just went. They had one of the most rapid rises and falls in European
yeah.
history. It was
eh,
amazing.
let me put you solo for a second eh, while, while you go with this thing, because yeah, what happened to Ireland is exactly what we're talking about.
Yeah, the Irish had nothing going for them, and then they decided they were going to make Ireland a financial center like Switzerland, and it worked. The standard of living went up. They had everyone and their uncle rushing to Ireland, and then once the money came pouring in, the government or the voters elected a confiscatory government, and the government said, all you people who set up business in our country, now we're going to take a hell of a lot more of your profit, so we can give our people free shit. And the company said it's no longer worth our while to do business in Ireland, so they left. And the people not only didn't get their free shit, they lost their jobs. So the same thing happened in Chile. Chile was held up as a success story in Latin America, and it was until college students said, "Now we want free shit, and if we don't get it, we're going to burn down every city in Chile." And so they tried, and then the voters said, "Oh, we need a communist government," and so they got that, and then Chile went down the crapper, which is where it had been. So there's a reversion clause in South America and in Europe. Um, you know, there were never conservatives in Europe. Uh, I heard an idiot again saying that the far right is Nazism. That's not true.
Mm.
Nazism is a collectivist ideology. There's no such thing as a far right collectivist ideology. Um, but you know, okay, I study World War One, and after World War One, the Germans had a civil war. The Kaiser abdicated, and they became a republic on November 9th, 1918. Then the armistice was signed on November 11th, and then the Civil War started. And you had monarchists, communists, socialists, and that was about it. So monarchists, communists, and socialists all fighting. There were no real conservatives. Monarchists aren't conservatives.
No,
The notion of an individualistic capitalist who believes in human rights that didn't exist during the German Civil War.
It still doesn't.
It still doesn't.
It still does not. There are no conservatives in Europe in the sense we have them in America, because there is nothing to conserve. There is no inheritance of liberty.
No.
What our founding fathers did in America, and they came to do it in America because they had given up on Europe. And John Winthrop says it just as clearly, and others as well, that we need to create a New England because the old one cannot be fixed. It will never be appropriate for us. And they built a New England, a New Europe, on the basis of principles that they held dear, but most of Europe did not. And I always trace that to the Danelaw and Gudrun Zarbi. A completely different philosophy of what a society should be like. A society of peers, not of classes. A society where neighbors who are all proprietors of the land, which in Europe generally was reserved for less than 7% of the population, and was 80% among these people, vote on their affairs, elect the ruler, and there are still 5 wapentake in England that derive from this, but they were, over the years, destroyed. And it was people with that culture that came to America, and from the very beginning started a society that is un-European in every possible way. And when they founded our nation, they founded it on principles that people in Europe did not, could not, and to this day do not understand.
Well, did you hear Senator Tim Kaine say the other day that the notion of God-given rights he finds troubling?
Of course he does. He's a fucking Jesuit.
Yeah. No, he said that all our rights should come from the government, and that the notion that they come from God, the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, that we're born with that's troubling to him.
Of course it's troubling to him. And as a matter of fact, let me put him here for you, because I actually have the video that you are referring to right here with me. And yeah, he's a stupid ass Jesuit. He is the one who understands nothing of our founding documents. But let's see what he has to say, and then we can discuss it. There we are. I hope you can hear it now.
The notion that rights don't come from laws and don't come from the government, but come from the creator, that's what the Iranian government believes.
The notion that rights don't come from the government, but come from the creator, that's what the Iranians believe. Whereby
the Iranians believe exactly. The Iranians believe exactly the opposite. They believe that all rights come from the government. That's what they believe.
But apparently Jefferson, Franklin, Washington, they were all Iranians.
Well,
because they happen to believe, and they stated it so clearly.
No, he's lying. The mullahs are a dictatorship. They believe that whatever feeble rights you have are granted by the dictatorship. They don't believe that you have God-given rights in Iran. They don't believe that.
Hold on.
Theocratic regime that
No.
bases its rule on Shia law and targets Sunnis, Baha'is, Jews, Christians, and other religious minorities. And they do it because they believe that they understand what natural rights are from their creator. So
No,
the
not
statement
true.
that our rights do not come from our laws or our governments is extremely troubling.
We
No.
find these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their creator with certain inalienable rights, among which are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Who wrote that? Khamenei?
Well, I mean, he conflated so many different things there that it's ridiculous. It's okay. Number one, there's no such thing as Shia law. There's a
No,
Shia religion and there's Sharia law.
of
But
course.
the attacks that the Shia mullahs carry out against other religions have nothing to do with
With
them.
natural rights.
Well, with rights, has nothing to do with rights. They're trying to exterminate these people because they exist. They're not saying we have a different. We have the right to do this because you have different right. No, they're saying we don't want you to exist. That has nothing to do with God-given rights or government-given rights.
You see, the problem that people need to understand. When you are convinced by imbeciles like this one, but sons of bitches like this, because this guy is not an imbecile, he's evil. If he manages to convince people that all our rights are granted by the government, the source of all happiness, it also means that government can equally take them away.
Of course, the
A right
government can decide that you don't deserve those rights.
a right created by government can be withdrawn by government. Our founding fathers, in their infinite wisdom, decided to create a society in which certain inalienable rights cannot be ever put in question. They don't come from legislative action, they don't come from the decision of a governing body. We are all born with them. And they use a language that is the opposite of theocracy. We're endowed by our creator. Our creator could be nature, God. Nature's God. Take whatever you want. You can look at it from a strictly religious standpoint or from a strictly philosophical standpoint. It doesn't change. The point is, these rights are not subject to discussion and are not either granted or taken away by any governing body. This fucking Jesuit, and you know I'm not saying this gratuitously, people can Google this asshole, and you're going to find out he was a Jesuit missionary in Nicaragua. By the way, there are still rumors about his relationship with some of the kids that he assisted. But that is
Color
neither
me
here
shocked.
nor there. Yeah, that is neither here nor there. That comes with the territory. This piece of shit, a man imbued by the philosophy of liberation theology, and people like Miguel de Scoto or Ernesto Cardenal, who were the Jesuit fathers. Well, Miguel de Scoto wasn't a Jesuit, Cardenal was. Um, who were the people in charge of his mission in Nicaragua, and who gave a Marxist envelope to religion to support the Sandinistas. He wants to sell this crap, but it's the antithesis of the very foundations of this republic. And he's doing so from a perch in the Senate, taking a shit on the very foundation of this country. That man should not be anywhere near our politics.
Well, tell that to his voters.
I know. I
No,
tried. I campaigned for Han Cow.
he's talking about theology, saying that we believe our rights are granted by the Creator does not make this country a theology. A theology
No.
means that the country is guided by a specific religion. That's the definition of a theology. Saying that certain rights are granted by the Creator doesn't make it a theology. And as a matter of fact, the First Amendment of the Constitution prohibits this country from ever being a theology.
Yes.
So he's not arguing in good faith.
He's a Jesuit. Jesuits never argue in good faith. As a matter of fact, as a matter of the rule of the order. If somebody says here the Stoics, Locke, Spinoza, Montesquieu, bullshit. Spinoza was another Jesuit. Montesquieu was a fucking frog. No. The people whose ideas founded this country don't come from Europe. They came from England once, but very early. So start reading John Wise, and the people. John Wise, by the way, is in the 1600s, and you will see that it's not that they were inspired by Locke and Montesquieu. It's the other way around. It's the other way around. During the Civil War in England, they were proponents of universal suffrage, separation of church and state, individual liberties. And they couldn't do it, and that's why they left. And at that time, there was no Locke or Montesquieu or bullshit. Take a look at the Universalists and the Brownists in England during the Civil War. Take a look at why they felt betrayed by Cromwell. And they finally decided to make a new England someplace else because the old one was shit out of luck. The people who want to make America a European phenomenon not only have zero notion of the history of America or Europe, they have bad faith. They cannot understand the American phenomenon. They cannot understand this notion that we can govern ourselves without a priest telling us how to think. And they need to grasp at straws to bring, some kind of familiar European bullshit. No. Start studying the Dane laws, Anglo-Saxon England, especially the Danes in East Anglia and Yorkshire. Take a look at the people who came from East Anglia to what became the US, and take a look at what they were writing in the 1600s. In the late 1500s in England, in the mid 1600s in America already. And then you realize how uniquely American this phenomenon is. And beautiful, I believe. It's, it appeals to me. What can I say? And I despise those Jesuits, like Tim Kaine. For that very reason, for this reason.
He's just not. When somebody argues in bad faith, then they're basically not worth dealing with. He knows damn well that we're not a theology. a theocratic government, and will never be a theocratic government because it's not permitted by the Constitution. We would have to repeal the Constitution. And
Yep.
if anything, the people who are calling for a theocratic government are leftists because their religion is government.
Yes.
That's why when you confront them, they act as if you're confronting them on their religious beliefs, and they universally react with rage and even violence. You see this all the time. You ask someone a question, they hit you in the face. They're the ones who are acting like jihadists. Yeah, I really don't know. But
No,
Tim Kaine.
These are the same people who say, "Oh, we need a law to prohibit Sharia law." We already have it. It's called the U.S. Constitution. It already states clearly that no law that isn't founded on this Constitution and the laws enacted by Congress in accordance with this Constitution, and we recognize no other body of laws, no Napoleonic Code, no what was probably in their minds at the time, canon law, no Sharia. It's already
Well,
banned.
also, I mean, they can have Sharia all they want, but we don't have to respect it. If a Muslim community announces that some woman has broken Sharia law and she's going to be stoned to death in the town square, all her family has to do is call the cops, and the cops will come and they'll say, "I'm sorry, you're not allowed to stone this woman to death." And if they say, but Sharia law says, the cops can stop them right there and say, it doesn't matter what Sharia law says. It's not recognized in the United States.
But listen, in this country, a lot of people marry in a Catholic church.
Yeah.
But they can only do it insofar as the priest has authority from the state, because it is not a religious ceremony. It is a civil ceremony, even if performed by a priest. Of course, for them, it has a different meaning when performed by a priest. And the Catholic Church will not recognize a divorce, however legally obtained in the state of Florida. Because for a Catholic to recognize a divorce, the divorce has to be recognized by the Pope. So a true Catholic who is divorced by their spouse cannot remarry in the church without a special dispensation. Does that mean that they're being ruled by a law different than that of the US? Yes. Can they do it? Of course, as long as they don't impose it on somebody else. Now, if they want you or me to obtain papal dispensation before we can remarry, all bets are off. But if they want to do it of their own volition, that's their own fucking problem.
No, if Catholics
many Jews follow Jewish law when they get married by a rabbi with a contract. As long as they don't want to impose it on somebody else, that's perfectly fine. As long as they don't want to stone the bride for some reason, it's perfectly fine. People want to marry with an imam, with contracts drawn by the families. If they want to do it and they don't impose it on others, there's no skin off my back. So, but people have a very serious difficulty even looking at this problem with anything approaching rationality.
Well, all the Muslim horror stories our heads were filled with after 9/11. None of them came to fruition. It was a fad. It was a fad to build foot bathing sinks in colleges and things like that. Then it all
Yes,
went away. It all went away.
unused.
The transsexual stuff, it all goes away. It all this stuff is faddish, and then it goes away. So
Yeah,
a lot of the people.
and it does. It, when people talk about Muslims praying if you see a Muslim praying in some public space, it's probably a provocateur. Real Muslims don't need to do this shit. They don't do this shit. And if any of you want to know what I'm talking about, Google up Quada prayer or Quaza prayer. And you'll see that for a practicing Muslim, for an observant Muslim, if he finds himself traveling, or if he fell asleep and forgot about prayer time, they can make up for it later. It's no big deal. They don't have to drop on their knees at a particular hour looking at Mecca. That's a nice cartoon, but not a real thing. What they have to do is say to themselves, I'll make up for it later in the mosque. And then there is a prescription of how to do that prayer then. And that's it. So, don't fall for the provocations, people. The reason I'm saying this, Thomas, is in the chat that we're talking about theocracy, and someone says, "What is that?" Islam. Yeah, Islam. I know of Islamic theocracies. God, we discuss Iran and the Taliban and other niceties here quite often. But the theocracies I've suffered on my own skin have nothing to do with Islam.
No, I mean, Islam is like the it's the religion we have the least to worry about.
Right now, yes, I would say so. 100 years from now, I don't know. But right now, anybody who thinks that 2% of the population can take over this country because a deranged fucking moron, talking his ass off in a mosque says so, you're more delusional than the Democrats. No, it's not going to happen.
Well, the 2020 census has them at about 1%. So, if you think 1% of the population is going to take over the country,
yeah,
no, in the Middle East, the people in charge of the holiest places in Islam are moving away from Islam. They're moving toward a secular. Basically, Islam is going to become Islam in name only. So,
they've tried to create Islamic republics in, say, Egypt, in Turkey, and they failed so far. And then you're talking 98% Muslims, and they can't. Or Morocco.
Well, and Turkey. Let's say Turkey becomes a jihadist theocracy. It's still Turkey. Like, it's still Turkey. The Kurds mop the earth with the Turks in northern Syria. The Turks were unable to beat the PKK until the PKK finally, put down its rifles on its own. So, Egypt.
Yeah.
The Egyptians have lost every war they've ever fought.
All I can tell you about is that Erdogan and his minions have been trying to turn Turkey into an Islamic state for 30 years now. And they have so far failed.
Yeah.
And the way it looks, the secularists are going to regain control of the government in the next election, and the failed experiment of Islamization of Turkey is over. If they cannot do it in Turkey, do you think they can do it in Middletown, Iowa? Give me a fucking break,
No.
people.
No, Americans are becoming more religious anyway. So we keep hearing about the death of religion in this country, the death of the birth rate, the death of this, the death of that. And
Bullshit.
everything comes and goes, and Americans are becoming more religious, and I predict that the birth rate is going to start going up pretty soon. So,
As soon as the economy improves,
Yep.
oh my God, when the economy slows down and people get more anxious about feeding the kids and having a home, they have less kids. And when the economy is doing well, they fuck like rabbits and make up for it. That's our history. Take a look at the thing. It's. I love the Malthusian predictions. At this rate, the population will be halved by
Nom, nom, nom,
2123.
nom.
Blah, 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 blah. At this rate, my ass, there is no such thing as at this rate.
Well, this is
Today's rate
why
is not tomorrow's.
all these predictions depend on nothing changing.
Mm-hmm. Malthus. Pure Malthus. If nothing ever changes, no external factors come into play, we don't account for immigration, periods of prosperity, then this will happen. But this is an impossibility, a factual impossibility right off the bat. And that is what has led people to make all of those wonderful predictions by 2000. No, by 1980, we were going to run out of food.
Yeah, run out of food.
By 1990, we were going to be in the middle of an ice age. By 2000, we were going to run out of oil.
The next war is going to be
about water.
Yeah,
about water. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
By 2005, there was going to be no longer ice in the Arctic. And the Russians could invade using, I don't know, Hawaiian shirts. By 2010, there was going to be no more polar bears. You have Al Gore to thank for that one. They're a fucking plague. They're all over the place. So the whole thing is, Malthus was the one who predicted population growth in England was going to cause famine in the 1700s. And boy, was he wrong. So, Kamala campaign democracy would be over if Trump was elected. Have you noticed how many assholes now who claim to be on the right are carping? Would you support Trump for a third term? I read that one today at least 5 or 6 times. One of them was this Lebanese woman who's always, warning about Sharia and all that shit. She was cute once, but now she's too bitter. And they're talking about that. It's like, why would you even bring it up?
No, I have no problems with Trump, but he's 78 years old, so he would have to be in his mid-80s out by the end of his third term. So let J.D. Vance do it.
Not to mention the fact that 2 terms is as much as the Constitution will allow him, unless we
Yeah.
change the amendment. So it's a moot point. You might as well talk about, would you support Trump growing a second head?
Sure. It
Would
made
you
him twice
support,
as smart.
right, would you support Trump growing a second pair of arms so he could play golf with 2 groups at the same time? I mean,
That would
what
be
kind of
something
ridiculous thing is that? That that one you want to see? Tell me the truth. You know, if Trump had 8 arms, he could play a foursome by himself.
Yeah, golf is weird. I have nothing against golf, but I don't understand it. I understand that Trump golfs because that's when he has his most important conversations.
A lot of people do that.
But it's a Scottish game, right? The Scots invented it.
It's originally a Scottish game, although, as usual, that thing went into the stratosphere once America picked up on it, and it became the upper crust game. And there is a reason for that. When you have people who have limited time resources, it is very difficult to have a 2-hour conversation with anybody. Joining them in a game of golf, which involves a few hours strolling down the meadows with a nice day and talking business and becoming friends. Yeah, it is a great bonding thing in business. And if you're not one of them, you're at a disadvantage. Whether it is airline executives, politicians, take your pick. If you don't play golf and you want to play in those leagues, buy the equipment and start practicing.
It's so
But
bizarre.
it's bizarre. By the way, I know building superintendents in New York that play golf regularly every Sunday. There are municipal golf courses in the Bronx, and they go over there and they meet with other people from the union. And with the excuse of the exercise and the day out, they socialize and make business connections that allow them to be more effective at their job. It's not just the big realtors or millionaires. No, it's at every level of society now. Oh, you know, it's true that your face reflects your outlook. Look at Rosie O'Donnell. Rosie O'Donnell's face reflects her past. Rosie O'Donnell is Dorian Gray without the portrait.
I've always wondered. I've never actually looked up any pictures of her young.
I mean, she was never pretty, but she wasn't a fucking Irish sailor like she is now. And Emery, you had to bring me the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, huh? Did you find that picture?
What?
Did you find the picture?
No, I'm looking. No, I'm looking to see how she smiled when she was young. When she was young, she had a normal smile, and then
Yes.
today she just bares her teeth.
Yeah, it's a
Like-
grin.
She's an old lady, and she's on Ozempic, and it's like fucked her up.
And she looks like a man,
now-
I'm sorry.
and she just shows her teeth. There's no smiling in it at all. And
No.
as a young woman, she smiled normally. You can, if you look up on Google Rosie O'Donnell Young, you can see lots of pictures of her smiling as a normal person. She knew how to
Yep.
smile, and then she lost the ability to smile.
More than that. Well, if I looked into a mirror and saw that face, I would have no reason to smile either. Let me show you one more thing here, because we're gonna need to go anytime now. Look at this beauty. This is from the House Committee on the Judiciary, Democrats, ranking member Jamie Raskin. By the way, these are nothing. They control nothing. They don't control the committee. They're a bunch of clowns. That they even have a letterhead like this one makes me crack up. But look at this. Ranking member Raskin, Congressman Norton, ranking member Garcia, and Senator Van Hollen. By the way, the House Committee on the Judiciary, what the fuck does Senator Van Hollen have to do? Well, they introduced legislation terminating Trump's unprecedented federalization of DC's Metropolitan Police Department.
Okay, thanks for that, boys and girls. We'll look into it. Thank you. Bye bye.
Yeah, we'll look into it. Well, punk circular file. I don't understand why these people think that is effective in any way. To me,
No idea.
It's a display of impotence. It's a display of impotence.
Well, they always do. They always put out legislation that's not going to go anywhere. I don't know.
No.
I mean, maybe it works.
Just to make a statement, this is going nowhere.
Yeah.
But what I'm laughing at is the unprecedented federalization of the Washington D.C. police force, which was under federal control from the founding of Washington D.C. until 1973. So much for unprecedented.
Well, these are the same type of people who make claims that the U.S. has never sent special forces into North Korea, and it's like that's all they did during the Korean War. They send in intelligence and special forces from every branch of the military and the government. So, you know, you hear people just repeat shit that. Mm-hmm.
They know nothing. Now you're talking about these whistleblowers that revealed that in 2019, SEAL Team 6, they say, that's, by the way, cannot possibly be true. Because there are SEAL teams that are especially trained for North Korea, the place we never go to. And SEAL Team 6 is not one of them. It seems to me that that's pure bullshit. But now they're coming up with something that theoretically happened 6 years, almost 7 years ago.
Well, also they said it was SEAL Team 6 going in to set up a listening post for the CIA. Well, the CIA has its own special operations group, which is made up of Navy SEALs, Delta Force, Green Berets, et cetera, et cetera. Mm-hmm. So if the CIA were going to set up a listening post, they would send in their own people. They wouldn't send in SEAL Team 6 because of that would be an admission that their own special operations group couldn't get the job done, and they would never make that admission. And besides, it's the same fucking people. It's the same people. Well, the Special Activities Division Special Operations Group, believe it or not, it's called SADSOG. SADSOG is made up of active duty members of the military special operations forces. So it wouldn't be SEAL Team 6 anyway.
No, that's what I'm saying. But anyway, it's fun reading it. It's even more fun looking at the reaction of people. But it's all bullshit anyway. And the last question that I'm going to entertain: have you seen Act Blue got busted? I've seen it. We've mentioned it earlier in this program as well. Fuck Act Blue. Whatever happens to them, it's well deserved. And with this, guys, tomorrow, I don't know if I'll be able to do the quad meet. It all depends on departure times and whether I have a drill or not. But I'll let you know on SQV. And the same thing for VIP room and yapping next week. I'll let you know on SQV if we can do them. And if not, I'll see you. If yes, I'll see you when I see you. If not, I'll see you next week with Thomas right here. And that's all I have to say. Oh, yes. If you haven't yet, please remember you can support us by subscribing to at the Brother Lie on X, dropping a buck or two at quadverum.com/support us, or coming to the link provided to Odyssey and clicking on support, tip, or join in Odyssey. And that said, thank you so much. Thank you, Thomas. And do you have a last word for us?
A pune.
A pune?
A pune. OPPUGN. A pune.
A pune. Okay. I couldn't get it. I thought it was a pune. Thank you so much.
A pune.
And everybody else, good night. Thank you. And see you either tomorrow or next week.